Thank you, and welcome to Bigfoot Club. I am your host, Robert Jesse Dominguez, Season 2, Episode 6. And with me is...
Covered in pain, Chris Colleps.
Yep.
And...
It's Ash.
It's Ash.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Not covered in anything.
She's a singer, not you.
Hey. I do all the singing.
Today we got a very special guest of ours here. So he's a good friend of mine. He's a researcher that I've known for a long time, and I'm really, really proud to have him on. Tim Clay. And Tim.
Howdy, folks. Good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Did you like the intro there?
Oh, I love that.
You're the only one that has their own theme song.
Yeah.
None of us have a theme song.
At all. It would take too long.
Well, it's like calling shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to think about it before everybody else.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Tim is you're actually a fan of the podcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
You watch. I mean,
Watch.
What am I?
What is it? He watches the little thing go and count the numbers down.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Hey.
I'm Shepherd Hydra.
Totally riveting.
What's going to happen?
Oh, wait. This is the part where it goes faster.
Yeah, you're a pretty big fan of the podcast. So
He listens.
yeah, I was getting to that.
Okay.
Well, yeah. You're just helping.
I'm here. I got your back, man.
Okay, thanks, guys. Tim, I know you and I we've researched a lot for almost like 20 years, right? We've done stuff, or we've known each other
Off and on, yeah.
How did you get into Bigfoot?
Well, I grew up in East Texas, and like so many others, it started basically with Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of, The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
And there was a Boggy Creek up near my house. Of course, I didn't realize it was a different one. But when you're 9, it's all the same.
It's all
right?
the same, yeah.
So, yeah, just you get kind of embroiled in that fantasy of what if. And then I never actually thought about researching until, I ran across, the TBRC back in the early 2000s.
Right. So was there any like movie or incident or book that actually brought that, it hit home with you and say, hey, that's something maybe I want to interested in maybe doing? Well,
not really necessarily doing because of anything. It was, like I said, the movie was already there. I had an interest. And then seeing it, local guys were actually going out and doing it. I never thought about anything being in Texas before. And then meeting up with Luke and yourself, and then getting out there and checking everything out was, once you got past, am I crazy for doing this?
Right. Because we were talking off show, like when we were driving, we were talking about how you perceived joining the group, and how my mom talked about it to me. So
yeah, it's really kind of like walking out there on a very shaky pier. You're going, okay, why am I diverging from reality? To deal with this.
Yeah.
But your curiosity kills you.
Yeah.
Were you like Robert and didn't think they were around Texas? You thought they were all up in the north, and so whenever you realized, oh man, they're in Texas, like Robert did, he was like to the moon with excitement that they're here in their own backyard.
Well, back in the early days of the internet, and before you really knew what to do with it, you would just sit there in a search engine. I'll plug this word in. I'll plug this word in. Finally, I plugged in Bigfoot and was like, whoa, look at all this stuff. And then Texas Bigfoot, what is that?
Yeah.
And then I found the TBRC and contacted somebody, and then
Now, was this at the beginning of the TBRC? Was the TBRC pretty new at this point?
less than a year old maybe.
Yeah, because I think whenever I typed in Texas Bigfoot, it brought me, like I was telling you off show, it brought me to Don Keating's 11th annual Bigfoot conference up in New Commerce, and Luke was there, and he had for some reason he had his email address, and I reached out to him, and I think Craig reached out back to me, and then eventually Luke did, he did call me, we talked and stuff, but whenever you joined, you were like the website was up and going, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, because I think
people's pictures were on it. There might have been a case report. Yeah. Luke had already put up stuff from Area 2.
right.
And I remember seeing a picture of where it looked like one was laying down in some tall grass.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and that was actually my first trip out there, was meeting him, and then he took us straight out there and got to look at that area.
That's neat.
So do you remember a moment when you were like, okay, this thing's real?
Yeah. I guess within a few weeks, a month, we had an outing out to this area too. And I was walking along, looked down, and it looked like a print, but it was weird looking. One, it was several weeks old and it had been rained on, so it was partly washed out. But the thing is they had very distinctive feet in that particular area. They almost looked like flippers, mainly because the heel was so narrow. So I sat there and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and finally was about to walk off, and somebody walked up, said, "Hey, what you looking at?" So I showed, and then Luke come walking by. "Oh yeah, that's a print." Okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah. So that was the like, all right, now I'm all in. I'm gonna find this thing. That moment that's pretty cool.
Was that the one, the cast that you have here now, or?
Oh no, this was uncastable.
Okay.
Like I said, you could just barely tell some toes, and you got this general foot shape, and the heel was washed out, but you could tell it was a narrow one.
So you being brand new to it all, as far as investigation, you knew that this was Bigfoot. This was a print. It wasn't just another indention in the ground or anything like that.
It was distinctive enough.
Yeah.
That you could tell it wasn't just a random.
Yeah. It wasn't
impression.
like a log fell down and then the log was gone or something like that.
Right.
Was there any more of them? Was there just that one?
That's the only one that stood out, but it was a grassy dirt area.
And you said it's been there for a while and it's been washed out, so
It wasn't on moss or nothing.
Say that again?
Some soft moss.
yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't looking
The
at
stick
moss
is
for
here,
hours.
and it was over
Right.
here.
Yeah. So because the stick was flipped over this way, it was there before. No, sorry.
Sorry.
We're just making fun of standing. Sorry.
No, I know. I went back and watched that, and yeah, the whole running thing was hilarious.
I was like, this
Why are you
guy.
running?
You can't sit with us. So after that moment, and you were hooked. What was it about, other than being a kid in Soggy Bottom or
Soggy
Bottom?
Soggy Bottom Boys?
I am the man.
Whatever. George
Anyway,
Bigfoot, same thing.
yeah, same thing. What was your intent from that moment? Like what were you in it for after that?
Well, actually, growing up out in the country, and playing out in the woods, camping, and being in the city for so long, I'd kind of gotten away from that. So this was a great opportunity
To get back to
great excuse to get back out in the woods, do some camping. I was meeting a bunch of group of like-minded people, and so anytime you do that, that's always kind of fun. Conversation's good, So it was kind of a tandem excuse to get back out in the woods and meet new people. And Luke was a great mentor. He was my mentor too.
Yeah.
And he had so much to teach you. He taught you how to look at the woods, walk into the woods in a whole new way.
Yeah.
One of my most memorable times of him being able to do that was we were following up on some stuff out at Tyler State Park. There was a guy out there that had some sightings, and he had found something and wanted to just come out and look. So we took a road trip. I can't remember. Were you with us?
I don't think I was. I want to say I don't recall that.
I know we had 2 cars worth, me and my truck, and then he was in another car. Anyways, so we pull up at this dead end area, the circle area, at the state park, and I pull up right in front of and park right at the dumpster. He parks to my left, and as he gets out of the car, he looks around, then he looks over at me and says, "Come here." So I step over, and he kind of points, and on the other side of the dumpster that I had parked on was an opening that went right into the woods. Mm-hmm. So we're like, that's interesting. So we step in, and there's a twist. Mm-hmm. And then it occurred to me, dumpster, fast food.
Fast food.
And so, like, you get a big weekend where there's a holiday weekend, and a lot of people are heading out there, and they're dumping all this stuff and the food out in the dumpster. They just got to step up and dig through.
Yeah. We actually talked about that being fast food for them on an episode. Why not?
Omnivores.
Yeah.
So
Why?
I used to party out there, and
did you really?
yeah, because I lived in White House.
What kind of foods did you take out there?
Whatever, but the next morning after everyone parties, you find all kinds of alcohol and cigarettes and whatever that people just
drunk
leave behind.
Bigfoot running around because they
East Coast Bigfoot
all over the place.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I wonder.
Oh my God!
I wonder how many times they took edibles out there and Bigfoot got a hold of them.
Oh, there's no telling.
But
he does that on their own, though.
Being that big, they'd have to have a lot, though.
Taco mayo.
Yeah.
Apparently 5 plants worth, right?
Yeah.
From that story that Tanya shared with us.
It take a lot to get a Bigfoot high.
Well,
a lot.
It's just got to be the right strain.
How did we get onto that?
I don't know. We were
Because she
partying.
said a lot of partying.
Well, and then
and I'm
we
thinking
did,
if there's a lot of partying, there's a lot of leftovers, so
Yeah.
Bigfoot's got to get a hold of it. So you got a bunch of drunk high
man.
Bigfoot running around.
Tanya shared a story with Robert that where was it at, in Oregon?
Yeah, I think so.
That allegedly one broke into this guy's grow house and ate like 5 of his plants, like just stripped them.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, well, maybe he don't feel good.
Maybe
Feels good now.
Maybe
That's
he
the
had
theory.
cancer and he had to get his medicine.
Glaucoma. Anyway, sorry, Tim.
Sorry, Tim.
That's all right.
We do that a lot. Sorry, I'm sure you listen. So okay,
tangent.
so Luke says, hey, there's an opening behind the dumpster.
Yep, step in, and there's a little twist on a small tree.
Yeah,
And I was still coming to terms with a lot of the tree stuff, but it was little things like that he would teach you how to look and see things. So, Bigfoot aside, I was having a blast just learning and seeing things in a new way and being more aware of the environment once you step out into the woods.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to see, really, if you pay attention.
as I go into the woods to hunt, and where I hunt, there's not a lot of woods because I hunt in West Texas, not in East Texas. So, so where I hunt, there's not a lot of woods, but yeah, when you're sitting up there, if you don't know what you're looking at, then you're just looking at a field with some brush on it, and here come a deer, and you get to shoot it. So I've always wanted to learn that stuff. I've always wanted to know how to like see something out of the ordinary and explore it and see what it is. So being able to go with Luke and do that stuff, I envy that about
I'm telling
y'all.
you, I would love to get Luke back out in the woods, and
I really miss that.
I do too. It's
because
Yeah.
for some reason, I've said this a bunch of times. I've always felt safe with him. I don't know why.
yeah,
I just always have this.
Oh, you're a pretty major fangirl anyway.
Have you been reading his diary?
so
Sorry.
Luke sent me a message today. Oh my God.
This is the way.
always late.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's always. It was sitting down when we had our show with Luke. But I wish we would have had the whole 3-4 hours that we were with him on video. I mean on tape.
Because actually, we get there and we started talking.
Yeah.
We sat in his living room, And we must have gone almost like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I had to stop him and say, okay,
We gotta start the show.
We gotta start the show
But just listening to him talk,
It's intoxicating.
yeah, it's just I was like a little kid. You know, when I was a little kid, my papa, one of the greatest men I've ever known in my life, he would tell me stories, and I would just sit there with, a little starry-eyed, like, oh wow, because he was born in 1903. So he went from horse and buggy to man on the moon, if you believe somebody went to the moon. But that's just the drastic change in what he went through in his life. I was just like, wow, that's awesome.
And so that was like what you felt with Luke.
Well, I felt whenever Luke was telling these stories and Luke was talking, I went back to that little kid sitting there like.
Well, not only does he have a captivating way of getting your attention, but he has some great stories.
Yeah. And his voice is just like, it's that narrator voice that's just like, man, I could listen to this all day. And that's what it was. We were just sitting there on the couch, just hanging out with him, and just because this is the first time I ever met him, first time I ever talked to him, and I was just like, I'd go in the woods with this dude right now.
Well, something I had forgotten until I was talking to Robert earlier was the first time I met him, I had went out and met him and several others, and that's when we went out to Area 2, and then when we came back, we ended up talking so late, I never went home. I ended up just crashing there and then leaving the next morning.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I'd have done that because I talked to him on the phone. First time I talked to him, it was like 4 hours, and he was talking about a bunch of stuff, and I was listening, and I was writing stuff down. And he goes, Bob, are you there? I go, yeah, I'm just writing it down.
Talking.
I'm writing it down. But I was like so excited to talk to him. But, I've said this before, and I'll say it, 1,000 times. I will always think of him as the father of Texas Bigfoot, because I thought before him, there's nothing. There was hardly any websites. It was the GC, but I don't really count them. So. But like before he came along,
that's the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, the Gulf Coast,
and they weren't necessarily specialized in Texas. I always thought they were more Louisiana. Animals.
Yeah, I mean, they had a few guys in Texas. They didn't have a whole lot. They were in Monster Central,
but their headquarters was in Louisiana.
I don't know. I just know most of them were stationed in Louisiana.
So to answer your question a little bit, aside from Bigfoot, which was just kind of a lark more than anything, because I still didn't really think there was anything there.
Yeah.
But it was just, getting with the group, getting with new people, getting out in the woods. It was a whole, and then the structure of it, learning new stuff.
Yeah.
That was pretty much, what pulled me in. And then you start seeing things that become more than a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like twists and prints, and then you start experiencing things.
Yeah. That's. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was like, that's kind of how I got into Bigfoot. Because as you know, you listen to the show. I don't believe in Bigfoot. I don't think it's real. But talking to Robert, talking to Luke, going through all that we've been through on the show, seeing your cats that you brought here tonight, it's intriguing. Just the thought of it is intriguing, of this larger than life.
I'm glad you said what you did, because every time I hear you say it, it makes me think of this one particular speaker at the Texas Bigfoot Conference, Chester Moore Jr. He said once in one of his speeches, he doesn't believe in Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. He believes in God. With Bigfoot, it's there or you don't.
Yeah.
Because you do your research or you've had an experience. So that's kind of where it comes down to. It's a matter of just getting out there and experiencing things. And that's kind of, again, I haven't had a full-fledged, oh my God, there's a Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. But I've heard and seen enough that, after a while, it's just not a coincidence.
Yeah, you can explain it otherwise.
I like that. I like that comparison, because I believe in God. I've never seen God. I'll never see God until I get to heaven. But God and Jesus are the only thing that I believe in that I can't see or feel or touch, unless I have that experience. And that's exactly how it is with Bigfoot. That's how it was with paranormal with me. I had all kinds of incidences when I was a kid, and I just was like, whatever, that's not real, until something real happened to me. And I was like, okay, I can't explain that. You know, that's not coincidence. So the intrigue of Bigfoot being real is what keeps me going. And my outlook on Bigfoot is more of a spiritual realm, more on the spiritual side, going back to the Native Americans and the Indians, and them believing that it comes from their past, or it's this being from the ground, or something like that. That's where I can get on a level of believing that Bigfoot is there.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because yesterday, building up to this, I've been going back and just really watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff. I watched one that was on with some Native Americans up in Nebraska on a reservation. And it reminded me that that's where we were going with our research back in the early 2000s. We had a few people come down. What did she do? Was she a shaman?
Yeah.
Something to that effect?
Yeah, she's a shaman.
She would come down, and I can't remember everything that we did, but she was able to help interpret some things that, she, from her perspective.
Do we want to say her name?
I don't remember it.
Joan Ocean, was it?
No.
Was it
the
Joan?
Native American lady from Oklahoma.
Yes. That's right. I don't remember.
Joan Ocean was a completely separate thing.
Okay.
She's a swimmer with dolphins, I think.
Right.
In
Okay.
Hawaii. But she's been out here.
Right. Okay.
Doing her spiritual thing. But this was getting in touch with the Native American side, and it brought in an interesting perspective. It's been so long now, I can't remember everything. But yeah. That's been an interesting aspect of it that you don't initially approach in the subject, because you're thinking flesh and blood, science, just rational thought like that, instead of the other aspect, because that can go in left field really quick.
It certainly can. But for me to be able to, at this moment in my journey, in my Bigfoot journey, for me to be able to wrap my mind around if it's out there or not is on a spiritual, because it's I see video and I hear audio and all this stuff, and I just, for it to be that sneaky, that deceptive, and that being able to stay away, all that, I just think it can shift in and out of the paranormal world or the spiritual world, and it comes and goes when it wants. And I'm not saying I believe that 100%. I'm not saying
that's a lot to take in by itself.
Yeah. So, but I can come more believing that than I can it being this big hairy, and I'm not going to say monster.
No, don't say that.
But this big hairy thing out in the woods. That's just where my mind. That's where I like can make myself think, okay, this might be real, but this is not. So,
Tim, I wanted to ask you, whenever you joined the TBRC, you eventually, because I know what happened with, our progression with the group, but the listeners don't. So when you joined the TBRC, were you in charge of anything, or you were like a field researcher? What was the
a general field researcher, and as things progressed and people came and went, I was charged of. I was placed as the East Texas regional leader.
So
followed up with a lot of cases.
What areas was that involved? I mean, I know it's East Texas, but you had predominantly everything, like, say, east of what?
Oh, wow, I can't even remember what the map looked like anymore. Probably everything almost east of Dallas, like north of Houston.
Tyler, Lindell, Dangerfield, all that stuff.
Right.
Okay. So was there any incidents or reports? Because I know that was all on the old TBRC website, and you did sighting reports and stuff. Was there any particular sighting or field report that stood out the most?
There's a couple of interesting ones, and one of them was, and I can't remember which river. I wish I had my notes on me. I can't find them right now, but there was, I think, two brothers. They had been out doing some fishing or hunting, and
what was that?
Just a laptop.
Battery dying.
And one of the brothers had stopped. For some reason, another brother kept walking along. Mm-hmm. And the one brother that had stopped sat down and leaned up against a tree and was waiting for his brother to come back. And as he's sitting there, he all of a sudden, he's right next to the river. He can hear something splashing. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, something came out of the water, and he could hear then steps through the leaves. And where he was at, it was behind him. And he kind of leaned around and looked behind the tree and saw one of these things come out and onto the trail where he had been walking, and then walked right past him and then cut back into the woods again. Mm. And it said it freaked him out really bad. This thing was huge.
So this thing just came out of the woods, saw him, just kept going, just strolling.
Well, I don't even know if he had noticed the guy, because he had looked around and saw what was coming, and then kind of hid back behind the tree again. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of walked right past him on the backside of the tree and never knew he was there.
So this thing's taking a bath or splashing around having fun.
Swimming across the river.
Yeah.
And just hops out and is heading in a different direction and just gets spotted.
Wow.
Did you go out? Did you investigate this? I mean, did you go out and investigate it, or was this like a phone?
It was phone.
Okay.
He had written it in, and then I called and chatted with him. And another one was some kids out near Longview, I believe, Kilgore, out there at some lake, and they were fishing and camping, and I think it was at night. And then all of a sudden they look up, and one's standing right there at the edge of their camp area. It had just walked up to see what was going on. They freaked out and started shooting at it. I think they had like a .22.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's smart.
Shooting a BB at a freight train.
Yeah.
So, but it took off.
Yeah.
I realized it had a little stinger there, and took off.
Yeah.
But like I said, if I could find my notes and go into more detail, those were two really interesting ones.
So did you investigate that one, or was it just phone too?
Actually, on that one, I think I briefly touched base with the guy on the phone, but I had another researcher out there that lived real close, and he was able to meet up with him and conduct a better interview. But like I said, it's been so long.
Yeah.
I don't remember how that exactly turned out. But it was an interesting case. Just trying to visualize you're out there having fun as a kid.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this giant thing is standing there in the dark at the edge of the camp light.
And you start flicking BBs at it.
Yeah.
Did Lauren Coleman ever reach out to you about any of these cases?
No, he never reached out at me. I did meet him at the conference though.
Yeah.
But that was about it.
Yeah, I know he reached out to me one time about one incident this was like whenever we first started the TBRC and our website was brand new, and I think we had like site report like somewhere in New York, state of New York. And I called the guy and I was talking to him, and he was intrigued. It was in New York or the state of New York. So I think Lauren Coleman called me and asked me questions about my notes. I had to go through my notes and stuff. I was just curious if he's ever reached out to you and talked to you about anything. So
no.
So,
but then it wasn't too long after a lot of this was going on that I left the group, and then my name was removed from the report.
Yeah.
So there was no follow up there.
Yeah. I wonder what that's all about.
Yeah, okay. I wonder who did that.
Aliens. No one knows. Something about.
I was gonna lead up to. I was gonna ask you about Deborah Thornton. I know I talked to Luke about this, and
another interesting one.
I wanted to hear it from your perspective on the Deborah Thornton case.
So the way I remember the story, it was Deborah and I guess her husband at the time, and maybe his brother, her brother, another guy. They had been out riding around, hitting the back roads, ran out of gas. And so the two guys decided to go wherever they need to get some gas, and they left her in the truck. And so she's just kind of stretched out on the cab with the windows down, kind of like just kicking back, maybe listening to the radio or whatever. I'm not sure. But then all of a sudden, hand reaches in and grabs her leg, starts trying to pull her out, and she realizes what it is. You know, and she goes into detail talking about its fingernails, you know, how you know, thick they were, and the color, and the hands.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was gonna lead into. Do you remember her talking about
Nipples
and penises?
No, actually, I fortunately had blocked that one out.
Yeah. That's on our Mind Your Ends and Peas episode.
That's right.
It always comes back to that.
But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But no, I mean, you know, whether that or, you know, Val Kilmer or George Clooney in their bat suits have nipples. I just try not to go there.
Sorry.
Oh, you're almost up on
Oh man. Okay.
So she was more talking about the hands and the fingernails and that more than the nipples and penises.
That's what I latched onto, was the detail of the hand coming in and pulling, and then it being pulled away by the other two.
Right.
And then it leaving.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Lamar County, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere in the mid-70s.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah.
You know, I've never said this about this story. Why did both of them go and leave her by herself?
I've been trying to figure that one, too.
That doesn't make any sense.
But think about it. You got two young guys, and, you know, they, however you want to look at whoever the hero is with coming back with gas.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I don't want to go by myself.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's leave her by herself.
Well, she'll be all right.
it. Maybe she was the only one that wasn't scared to be by herself.
Yeah. Maybe that is a good point. So
apparently, what she had to fight this thing off with is like a Coke bottle.
okay.
And so I guess it was one of those old Coke bottles.
Yeah, like
that she was able to, like, you know, just swing and smack the hand.
And I know a big part of the story was supposedly the two females that came out to take the male away,
or scream at him,
or scream at him, or get him to stop, or something like that. So that's, you talk about being freaked out as a little kid sitting by a river and having this thing come up. I couldn't imagine getting pulled by this thing. You know, this thing come up and grab my leg and try to pull me out of a truck. I've said it before. In that moment, there's no way I could have remembered details.
So I'm guessing the biggest thing that instigated it there was she was on her period.
Yeah.
And so it was probably scent.
Mm-hmm. Because I know Roberts talked about going out and talking with a lady, and one of the things he asked her was she on her cycle, and he said to freeze it. You know, take your
Ziploc, put it in a Ziploc.
and freeze it.
Really?
And
I don't know. I remember that story.
That was it was the Bailey story. Do you recall that at all? Lance Bailey's wife.
Again, that's a
Diane
whole
Bailey.
faction I try to block out.
Yeah. This was before all our indie stuff, and it's what got us out to Lamar was Mike and Sandy Sales sighting report, or the incident, and then Diane's came pretty much after that one. So we went out, and this Bigfoot was going to the back of her house, and I don't know what Lance was doing. He was on a road or something. I can't remember.
yeah, because he wasn't home. He was, and this thing never came up when he was home. It always came when he was gone.
This was like really early in the TBRC, so I don't know if you recall that.
No, but it doesn't sound surprising.
Yeah, and Robert said that he told her to, next time that she was on it, to freeze it so he couldn't smell it. And
Or
okay.
just put it like in a Ziploc, and when she was, because like they burn trash there, and she just stacked all the trash in the back. So I just thought it was coming up, you know.
so it would mask the scent. So
I told her to freeze
it'd
it.
stay away.
I told her to freeze it, and when she was ready, just take it out there and just burn it all at once. So, and then I told her to get some cam trackers. So it was like me, Luke, and I think Kenny was there too. So
Kenny Ortega.
no, not Kenny Ortega. But yeah, that was one of the.
I don't think I ever told you about this. going out for the Thornton case. Mm-hmm. We were out there driving around. I can't remember who I was with. But we were going down that stretch of road trying to figure out where everything was. Mm-hmm. And you've seen those silhouette black metal, like animal cutouts.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And we were riding around and we look over, and from a tree there's a black silhouette of a monkey hanging from a tree. We're like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't recall that, but
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah, it was probably about another mile down from our main research area up there.
From where the Deborah Thornton thing happened.
Yeah. Well, from her house.
From her house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where her incident happened was probably within a 5-mile radius.
Okay.
10-mile radius or something like that.
I think
Wow.
I think her incident was the lake's there now. I don't know if you recall that. Is
Oh,
it-
that's right. It wasn't that
yeah,
old.
yeah. It was in an area where the lake is there now. So
Okay.
we couldn't go back and look at it.
Oh, so you couldn't even get to it
No, it was
unless you were on a boat.
yeah,
That's right. I think at the time it was only like 15 years old.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was interesting. I know whenever we went to go see her, she was wearing, I think, like one of those jumpsuits, and she had like a gun inside her bra, I think.
Well,
All I remember is there was 40 of us
Better
like
than a
standing in
cup
that room, all hearing the story. We were like, "Wow, this is good. We
Yeah.
can listen to this in person."
Yeah.
I think if that happened to me, I think I would. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'd have a little Dirty Harry in my pocket too. So
Ken Marvel was the one to tell me that. Are you surprised with that one?
that she showed him her pistol.
Shout out to Ken Marvelous Marv.
Ken has a way with some
Pistols.
folks. Has.
he has a way with some folks.
and other stuff too. So
That's sorry. That's awesome. So, what would you say was your most interesting that you actually got to investigate? That you actually got to go on?
Well, after I quit the group, we focused in on one particular property, and just the experiences there was investigating the things that were happening at that time.
Yeah.
Not following up, days, weeks, months, or years later. Things were happening real time, and so that was the most interesting. And then what finally convinced me that there's something out there. Still, like I said, I've seen something, but I haven't had that full on. Oh my God, there's a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But I've experienced enough things, just listening, seeing, the prints, things done with trees, and experiencing some other oddities that you just can't hardly explain.
Yeah.
But that was the most interesting. And
Just a combination of all those times going out there to that.
just about a 1.5, 2 year experience of following up, and seeing some of the videos that came from there.
Yeah.
And, tantalizing, but again, the blob squatch
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Everything's blurry, grainy, fuzzy.
Yeah.
The
Everything's
cameras
far
weren't good
away.
enough. The lighting was bad.
So it's if you hadn't have been there and saw these videos and all that, you would have a different. Is that accurate to say you'd have a different a different maybe mindset if you hadn't have been there and then saw them?
Yeah, if I saw them, then I'd be just like all the other YouTubers that would go, "Oh, they're faking it.
Yeah.
That looks lame. I could have got a better suit than that."
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I would have dismissed it and moved on. But yeah, being out there and experiencing it, again, I still am doing my best to keep a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
And going, okay, is it possible that someone could still be scamming me? Mm-hmm. But then I got to walk away with the thought that, what are they gaining from it?
Yeah.
They're not gaining anything from me.
Yeah.
I'm not gaining anything from it. And, there's a laugh, but how many times can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're just a really insane
We
psycho.
Yeah.
talked about that a little bit or not yesterday, but last week, because there was that episode of Survivor Man that he dedicated simply to see how easy it was to hoax something like that. And he's like, you're going to spend a lot of money on it, and there's nobody that would probably want to do that. You know, they don't really benefit from it on that degree to get it something that's believable.
He spent about, how much did he spend?
Like $10,000.
$10,000
on special effects stuff, and that was just for footprints.
Well, see, and the other argument with, like, say, Patty, for example, you know, Planet of the Apes, the first original Planet of the Apes came out in that same time period. I think just within about 6 months, 8 months after that.
Right.
Like early 68. And so I can't remember his first name. Chamberlain, I believe, was the makeup artist that did the effects for that. And so they were assuming that, okay, they went to Hollywood and got this guy to do the monkey costume or the ape, Sasquatch costume, whatever. But, you know, they're stretching, I think.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I do, and it didn't even really look the same, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, compare Planet of the Apes to like something that would be believable, and it doesn't really. I mean, you can tell it's a person in a suit.
I don't know if I ever told you, but when I went up to Newcomers Town to Don Keating's 12th annual Bigfoot conference, I ran into Larry Lund. Larry Lund's from the Pacific Northwest, and he had like 4 of these big thick albums. He had like Polaroids and just like pictures. And he was showing me because like whenever we got to this Bigfoot conference, they had it at this hotel room, this hotel, and they had like this stretch of like of rooms, and we were all on the first floor. So all the Bigfoot researchers had their doors open, and so we were just going. It was me, Greg, Luke, and Jerry Heston. So we were just walking around to each room and just like popping our heads in, introducing ourselves. And we ran into Larry Lund, and he had, like I said, he had these 4 big albums. You can go, dude. It's okay.
Yeah, just open it.
It's okay.
It's all good.
So I'd rather have you comfortable than making noise. But anyway, so I get to meet Larry Lund, and he pulls out these albums, starts pulling them out, and supposedly he went to Bluff Creek right after the Roger Patterson stuff. And he was showing me pictures, the footprints and the distances and stuff. And so I can't remember the guy's name, but he had a mathematician with him. And they were talking about the distance between these strides. And he was saying that creek bed had volcanic ash. And that volcanic ash is like really dense. And so it would take something really heavy to make these footprints. And so he was showing me all these pictures, and I was gobbling it up, man. I was like, show me more. And so we were just talking. I think I ended up talking to him for like almost 2 hours. But I don't think he's with us anymore. But he was like in his 60s or like late 60s whenever I met him in early 2000s. So, but he showed me that, and I was sold on that. So.
But didn't he say that the stride was so large, so long that make the impression, there's not a man that could make that kind of impression.
I want to say that he had a picture of not him but someone else that was tall.
Yeah,
that's trying to duplicate it, and it was difficult for them. They were like almost doing a split
because like they could do it, but in order to make that kind of a imprint, it'd have to be something very big and something very, very heavy.
I mean,
so
was it Bluff Creek? He said it was. It looked like Bluff Creek to me, and from what he was showing me and Luke, and it was a guy named Mike Frizzell. He's with the Enigma Project, and I met these guys from West Virginia, and they were like all into science and stuff. These guys were walking around with laptops. This is like in early 2000s, laptops with like hooks are on their neck, and they were walking around the hotel room typing as they were like. That's how I met him. I said, "Hey, dude, what's up? What's this?"
Was there a trail of ladies behind them?
So it was interesting. So I always thought the Patterson Gimlin thing was real, and when I talked to him after that, I was kind of sold, from all that information overload and stuff like that. So I don't know if I ever talked to you about that. No.
I don't recall that, no.
Okay. But that was we had a blast there, and with Jerry and Luke and what's his name, and so but it was
he who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named.
But getting back to TBRC, and I won't dwell on this, but what was, I mean, you eventually left that group, right? You left because I left before that.
Yeah, our research in that one particular area, we just kind of started realizing that what we were learning was expanding beyond the protocol that the group would allow.
Right.
So we were being stifled. You know, in that one particular phase. So we had to kind of grow, and get out and learn more.
So the group wasn't willing to grow with y'all.
I was going to say, could you elaborate on the growth?
There's kind of like you were saying earlier, there's a spiritual aspect that was not part of their protocol.
Yeah.
And it was just purely scientific.
Flesh and blood.
The Gigantopithecus theory, you know, some giant ape descendant, I guess, that's real sneaky out in the woods.
Yeah.
It's got all this stuff going for him, knows how to be blurry in pictures. So, yeah, that's kind of what their thought process was, and they just didn't see things beyond that. And we were experiencing things beyond that.
That's very limiting. I mean, I think that you can find a way to balance both, honestly.
Well, it's a progressive thing, and you have to be.
Yeah, you have to allow yourself to grow because, I mean, that's the whole point of any of this, at least for me, is to find what the truth is. And just because it's beyond what, I don't think we as people ever need to stop being willing to learn either, you know, spiritually or just mentally or whatever, you know. In any way, you have to be open-minded a little bit. I mean,
well, the person that shall not be named was financially motivated.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
And so very close-minded. And fortunately, to our luck, he closed down this area because this one particular guy that was a prankster. You know, so everything was discounted. And I was fine with that.
Yeah.
Researchers can just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so we kind of were lucky to focus in there.
Yeah.
There were still other people that knew of what was going on there and experiencing things. Fortunately, it was fairly minimal. But our property was private, and we had access to that.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of interesting things going on there.
And when we getting back to the spiritual aspect of it, when we were talking about Brown Springs, have you listened to that episode, yeah. Brown Springs? I don't know if you've been to Brown Springs or have ever been a part of it.
No, I've just heard about it.
Yeah. When we were talking about that, the most interesting thing about Brown Springs to me was the presence that Robert talked about feeling. The moment that he got there, he felt this presence, like this heavy weighted presence that came over him. And then all the Bigfoot stuff started happening. And to me, that story in itself was the thing that kind of unlocked that thing in my mind that's where I started going down the spiritual realm of this and started connecting it with this Native American spiritual aspect, because before the Bigfoot stuff started happening, the moment he got out, he said he felt this presence. And then they walk, and then, man, the Bigfoot stuff starts happening. Can't be found, trees pushed over, footprints, all that good stuff. And that's where it opened up to me. And with the person that shall not be named, if he chose to block that out, financially motivated, block that out, I think it's just hurting himself as far as his expansion into the whole realm or the aspect of Bigfoot. And I think it's awesome that y'all were able to just say, hey, we're good. We're going to go carry this on and do our own thing and expand on this to try to reach that other understanding of it. I think that's cool. I know Robert left for different reasons, and but
on that note, I mean, so when I started with the TBRC, there was Luke, and then the person that won't be named. Mm-hmm. And as I was telling Robert earlier, they made a great balance, because Luke could take you out in the woods and teach you. The other aspect was great on getting attention, media.
Yeah.
You get the web out
for
there.
himself.
So there was a neat balance.
Sorry, he's distracting me with his phone. There was a unique balance. Yeah.
So that kind of worked, and there for a time the magic was nice. Mm-hmm. But then Luke left, and then so it became kind of lopsided.
Yeah.
And then the direction went in a different way, and so then Bob left.
Yeah.
And then within 6 months I was gone too, and then several of us left at the same time to focus in on this other area. But he was the armchair researcher. Mm-hmm. He didn't get out in the woods. He would sit there and peruse the internet for his,
Unless he's on TV, and then they put him in a boat in a really bad shirt and look really cool, man.
There is that.
But that I could go to a pond in somebody's backyard and make it look like I'm in the woods.
But
on
is it on
too.
the History Channel?
Oh,
That's the
no.
question.
Yeah.
I mean,
woo-woo.
But just touching on that, because I know I had a lot of dealings with him, and I probably more than other people, and I met with him almost like on a weekly basis, and would go to his house and talk to him, and he would tell me stuff like off comment and stuff, talk about certain people or certain things, and I don't know.
Well, it's that whole demeanor there, and it kind of spread out into the group,
right?
And I'm not really into that.
No.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not moving forward, why bother?
Yeah.
I just felt like it was. I think it was just time. It was time for me, and I just said, okay, I'm done. Because I was really passionate about the group. I was really passionate about the subject. I was passionate about helping people.
It was real disappointing for me when you left.
I appreciate it.
Because you weren't there anymore.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
I know you talked about this certain spot that y'all'd go to, and that was the most interesting. I know you and Robert spent quite a bit of time out there together, and I know that when you spend time with somebody doing certain things, you create a bond that just can't be broken. The guys I spent in the military, that bond is never going to be broken. It's just going to war with somebody. There's nothing that's going to break that bond. And I'm not saying that y'all went to war or anything. Y'all could have if Bigfoot wanted to. Y'all could have been at war.
it's still.
But it's still that bond that in. I just thought of this right now because you said it sucked that he was gone. And when people like that leave, it's just not the same.
It's just like anybody you work with when you develop that rapport. But there's going to war is quite a bit different. But here's an intense situation.
Absolutely, and that's what I was getting at.
Where you're spending a lot of time together. Because our practice in those days would be to sit up all night.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I think it was Memorial Weekend. There was an outing. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Raspy?
What was it? What did you say?
Raspy.
Rasping?
Raspy. Yeah. So I'm guessing that you were there, maybe not. Uh-huh. I got out there like a day late. I think they had started on a Friday night, and I was able to get out there on a Saturday morning. Was
this area 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think it was the Saturday night thing. We had split up into 2. There was the base camp where Luke was, and then me and 2 others went off way out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Just set our chairs up and just sat there, trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Of course, we all fell asleep.
Yeah.
But it was during that time that Luke was having some activity of hearing something running.
Yeah.
And he said it had like a raspy sound to it.
Yeah, I think I was there. I think it was me, you, and Boudreaux.
Sitting out in the woods?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking that you were with me. But somebody finally came on the radio or came out and got us. Mm-hmm. So we were getting up, and then right before the noise of us moving around happened, I heard a... And I'm like, okay. I can't think of what that is. But that's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was there was some like I mean I've heard that a bunch of times and but yeah I think I was pretty tired that night though.
Oh yeah.
But just like you were talking about, doing stuff like that in intense moments, being out there, you build a bond that is pretty unbreakable. And
yeah, there's not a lot of people that I would go to the woods with, and I think you're one of them. You're one of the guys I would. You, Kenny, Luke.
Okay, just be careful not to sound too fangirly.
I'm just saying because I've been approached. You know, I'm sure you have too. And when people know that you're talking, that you know that you do Bigfoot stuff, people come to you and goes, "Hey, I want to go to the woods with you."
Hey, random stranger, why don't you go out and in the middle of nowhere with me?
Again, that's not something I advertised.
Really?
Yeah, it was just a select few that I would work with. Occasionally, you might get on that subject.
Yeah.
And then if you felt comfortable, might say something.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody at work knows that I'm into Bigfoot stuff. So, I mean,
really?
Yeah. Everybody,
how did they figure it out?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Wearing Bigfoot club shirt.
Weird.
Then no, but
your entire office, your car.
But like, there's people that come up to me and say, "Hey, I want to go to the woods with you." No, you don't.
You think you do? You'll be either bored as shit or you pee your pants.
Yeah. Because I took my cousin out to Brown Springs when we had that deal, and it was during the day, and he was freaking out. I said, "Dude, we normally come out at night. You're lucky because it's daytime." He was telling me, "I think it's time to go."
Has he ever been in the woods before?
No.
Yeah,
that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
Personally, I can't figure out if I'm brave or stupid during those days. I never carried anything.
No, yeah.
I just go out there and go, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, because there were times I recall that I was like, we were there all weekend at this place we were talking about, and by the time Sunday rolled around, I was pooped, man. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home, and you would stay till like Tuesday.
Well, on this particular weekend, everybody left Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And me and Dana stayed and did one more night. But we were going on such little sleep. I swear it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock that night. Maybe might have been a little bit later. We started hallucinating.
Yeah.
And the scary thing was we were hallucinating the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting in the middle of the woods and the light plays tricks on you, and it just kind of, you start seeing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Because I do recall you telling me a couple of times you'd go out to this place and you would sit in this is when you had a truck. Mm-hmm. And you would open up you would back up into the,
Well, that was our secondary research area after we quit the group. So this was interesting. So I was out on this private property, and I went out near the cabin, which was in the back 30. And I had taken my truck and backed up near the tree line. And I was still probably a good 15 yards from the trees, just basically still sitting out in the open. And I had a parabolic dish. And I'd stuck right outside my truck window and ran the cord in and, smartly rolled up the window as much as I could so nothing could reach in and get me.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm recording. And I remember I had just flipped the cassette. And again, I'm starting to kind of sit there. My head's starting to bobble a little bit. My eyelids are getting heavy. And then all of a sudden, bam, just something hit the truck. And it got my attention. I hit the brake lights, turned on the headlights, and I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
The next morning, my passenger mirror had been pushed to the window. So something had come up and just went slap.
Just smacked it.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to your insurance provider?
Well, fortunately, nothing was broken. It swiveled.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those swivel ones that's meant to.
Yeah, like a trailer mirror.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Meant to break.
But I didn't realize it could do that.
Yeah.
At the time.
Did you catch anything on any audio on the disc?
So I was letting the guy that lived there, property owner, listen to it the next day, and he sweared he could hear something kind of snicker afterwards.
It smacked it and laughed.
And I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it, but my ears, some people just have good musical ears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not me. I can't hear the subtleties in certain sounds.
Yeah.
But he said he could hear it, and you could just hear the smack. And unfortunately, it was kind of windy. So So you really couldn't hear,
Yeah.
you know, like anything creeping up. But whatever it did, I'm sure it did it very stealthily.
Yeah.
Did it, and it's gone.
He smacked it and laughed.
Yeah.
I do recall you telling me that whenever like that had happened, and I think you told me like the following week, or because I think I had already left, or maybe that was the weekend I didn't go, or something.
So what I never figured out was the routine that they would let their cows loose. Mm-hmm. Because it seemed like at night, I thought they had corralled them up into a particular area.
Right.
But like the next night, I'm in the cabin and I hear something out there messing around, and I look out and it's a cow, you know, moving around. I'm like, all right, what's it doing out here?
Yeah.
But I know I've been on this property before, and we were like over by the treehouse going toward the back 30, and we would hear something rustling through the woods, and like we'd have spotlights ready, and it was a cow.
Yeah.
Coming through
going through the densest part, possibly like all over whatever,
path,
just barreling us through something,
just barreling through.
So
well, there was this other night leading up to the second Bigfoot conference, and we were out at a state park, and we were setting up and trying to do some listening, and I had forgotten something back at camp. So I had radioed in and had somebody drive it up to me. Mm-hmm. So I'd walked down to this trail. We'd already set up, 100 yards or so down this trail. And as I was walking back up to the head of the trail to meet the guy in the car, I'm walking along and I just have a little pin light just to kind of see where I'm going. And I made a mistake of flipping it over and looking to my side. And then boom, there's eye shine. Like, what the hell is that? And I think it was like my spotlight that I had forgotten. So as I'm coming back, I do it again, and there's the eye shine, and it's a deer just laying there.
Well, he's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
sorry.
Never apologize for Vader.
Yeah, because deer, when they see a spotlight, they just stop. Mm-hmm. They just stand there.
Well, it was interesting. This was laying down already.
Yeah. He's just chilling.
He's tired. He's so
He
tired.
might have been shot. Did you hear a gunshot? No gunshot?
Not at a state park.
Yeah, that's true. If there was, there's somebody getting arrested.
So that's the other interesting thing is some of the research areas or areas that I've ended up following up on have been around state parks.
Yeah.
It's a safe area.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the fast food.
I was going to say this readily, the smorgasbord that they can choose to eat from. I mean, from everything that I've heard from Robert and Luke and stuff that they're very intelligent. They're very, very intelligent. So they're gonna find where the food is, and they're gonna find out where it's safe. They know that a state park is. They might not know it's a state park, but they know it's safe. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would go if I was out in the woods. I'd go where the food is and where it was safe. So
one of the first videos that we ran across that this person, the property owner, was able to get on his property. And again, it was one of those situations where he set the camera down and walked away from it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there was a little twig right in front of the lens, so it focused in on that twig. But behind it, in a very blurry way, you see this white creature walking along. And so we heard about it, and I think it had happened just a day or so before we were going up there anyways. So we get up there and we look around, and I immediately checked the fence. It was near a barbed wire fence, so I just checked to see if it crossed, and boom, there's this long white hair. So we bag it up, and Ken knew somebody he could send it to get tested. Yeah. Before he figured out what we were testing for.
Mm-hmm. And then he shut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But came back, mitochondrial was 100% human.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been running across that a lot here lately, that if there's been any DNA for them to find, it keeps coming back that way.
Wow.
Not necessarily unidentifiable.
Yeah.
But as a type of human.
That's very interesting.
But if I understand correctly, that's only down the female lineage, not the male. mitochondrial aspect of it, anyways. Again, I would have to know what I'm talking about a little bit more scientifically.
Yeah.
Best I can tell, I'm recounting what I had heard just the other day.
Wow.
Was that a school up, like, it was a school up north, right?
Not sure.
Yeah.
I want to say the guy was up north somewhere, but
Yeah.
I don't know what he was affiliated with.
Yeah, but as soon as he heard Bigfoot,
No, we didn't tell him it was. We
out of
didn't.
that.
We
Not at
didn't.
first, but I think he finally figured it out.
Yeah, it took it like 3 or 4 times, right? Or was it 3 or 4 times?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. He might not have heard the actual Bigfoot, but he found out what y'all were doing, and he's like, I'm not involved with that.
Because I think didn't he say that? Hey, are you guys contaminated? Are you using gloves or tweezers or
That
whatever?
was the other thing, that kind of was my thought process. We keep hearing contamination, and like maybe it's not contaminated all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because maybe that's what it's coming back as.
yeah,
And that's not something that you would immediately.
I mean, because like
Put together.
we were taking precautions. We were wearing gloves and we were
Yeah.
using tweezers and envelopes or whatever. Because I think I recall we went from Ziplocs to envelopes. I think.
Well, and that was a mistake we were making early on. Like my brother's a police officer, and he was telling me later on, you got to use paper because the
'cause of
plastic can do weird things.
Plastic
people.
And I had already went out and bought a bunch of plastic.
Yeah,
Plastic people. That's from Indian in the cupboard.
yeah. From
It's been forever since I saw that.
when he was at school and he put him in his backpack.
Oh, yeah.
And
I hear it now.
the principal was like, "What do you have in there?" He's like, "Plastic people."
They're just plastic people. Sorry.
Do you remember the first trailer for that?
I think so. Yeah.
It had Vader in it.
Yeah.
But didn't make it into the movie.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
was so bummed.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I love that movie.
Is it
love
okay?
that movie.
I was gonna say, is it okay if I say about you in Star Wars? Or
Yeah, sure.
okay, well,
I'm talking Bigfoot.
I don't know. Tim Clay's like a big Star Wars fan, and so that's why I try to throw in all the Star Wars as I can.
I have to say this, that last year was the first time I had ever watched any of the Star Wars movies, and I just watched them.
Most impressive.
Sorry,
Why you cut me off?
sorry.
But I watched them back to back to back because my kids wanted to see the new one that came out, so I watched them back to back to back. But I didn't watch them up to then.
Wow, that's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Now
So-
you got to watch
In
Clone
both
Wars.
ways.
And
Yeah, and it almost got to the point to where I was like, man, I've made it this far. Why break the streak? And if it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't have watched them, because it was like to the point to like,
That's horrible.
this is like
I know,
something I got to hold on to, you know. So, but my kids wanted me to watch it with them. So, and I didn't want to go see the last one without seeing the ones before it.
That's always a good place to start.
Yeah.
What'd you say about the Clone Wars?
Oh, you need to go back and watch those too, because that's very important.
Oh, the Clone Wars. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
got to the Clone Wars. I haven't watched those.
That's a time investment.
Yeah.
There's some interesting things
Yeah.
done there.
But I've watched them all, and my favorite one is New Hope. That's still my favorite one. And that's the first one I watched, and it's still my favorite.
I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite?
Well, New Hope #2, Empire #1.
Okay.
But it can flip flop a little bit
Yeah.
because one, predicated the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his is
Empire.
Empire. And
Well, I hated Empire when I first saw it.
and I would say that mine is the direct opposite. Mine's New Hope and then Empire 1 and 2. Because New Hope, I guess it was just because it was I don't know. It was just a great movie for one, but it was my first experience with Star Wars. So I was like, this is awesome.
So that was your first movie that you seen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because by the time you got to Empire, then the punchline. Well, I'm guessing you already knew it though, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So I already knew it, but
See, for me, and if you listen to the commentary on the movies, George Lucas says he had done some research on that, and so it would go into two camps. people would accept it or they wouldn't.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, no, he's a bad guy. He's lying. But the Sith have never lied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter in all the movies, they always tell the truth.
Absolutely.
Because nobody believes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, before I watched Star Wars, I watched The Mandalorian. And I fell in love with The Mandalorian. And not just because of Baby Yoda. I just think Mandalorian's awesome. And then when I started watching Star Wars, and Boba Fett's only in there for a little bit, but he immediately became my favorite character because of The Mandalorian, you know, just because of that show. So,
well, that's probably what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Was a Boba Fett thing. And personally, I was never really interested in seeing a Boba Fett movie or TV series because he's the man of mystery.
Yeah.
And the least you know about him, the better.
Yeah.
But in the Clone Wars, they have several episodes where several bounty hunters work together. And that could be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be cool. But I even went out and got a Boba Fett shirt because I was like, Boba Fett is awesome. And
his backpack's got jets.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
I hear that all day at work because that's on his phone. Every time he gets a text message, that's what it goes. So, but I'm really excited about The Mandalorian season 2, and I'm ready for it to be here. But you gotta wait. Gotta wait.
November probably. I don't know.
I think it's November.
See, fortunately, I am caught up with the Clone Wars, and when Disney bought Lucasfilm back a few years ago, they canceled the show. But they brought it back for one more season, and the first episode was yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, first episode of season 7.
Nice. And that's a time investment because I haven't seen not one of them. So
it's cartoons. It's fun.
Actually, what you could do is pick and select because they did several arcs, 3 or 4 episode arc, and you could go back and actually explore more of the Mandalorian history. You just got to find out which episodes those were. And they were only like maybe 20 or 30 minute episodes anyways.
Oh, okay. So, I thought they were like full feature films.
They're cartoons. It was on Cartoon Network.
Animated.
And they're like 20, 30 minutes long.
That makes it even better.
Yeah, they're animated.
I like cartoons.
Yeah, it's not cartoons.
Sorry.
It's animated.
Animation.
It was on the Cartoon Network, but there is adult animation.
He's not a monster.
He's not a monster. He's a Bigfoot. But yeah, I'm a big Jon Favreau fan anyway, and he's the one that did The Mandalorian, and it got me hooked into the Star Wars. I'm not like a big, huge, giant fan, but I'm a big fan.
Well, that's a good entry point, and if you hadn't really experienced it before, and what a lot of people got to keep in mind is this was generated for kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's done in a simple fashion.
Yeah.
And but us old timers that have grown up with it, have a hard time remembering that.
Yeah. Have you've seen Rise of Skywalker? Yeah. Have you seen it?
I've seen it once.
Did you like it?
I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogies because they just weren't they weren't planned out. They weren't thought out.
Yeah.
And J.J. Abrams, to me, while he can put together a decent movie, he likes to take these shortcuts that just aggravate the hell out of him. I mean, who goes to hyperdrive sitting in a cargo hangar? That just doesn't happen.
Sorry.
See, I guess that's where not being such a hardcore fan that I loved it.
It looks good on film, or in the movie, but
so I never would have thought of that.
But see, like aside from Star Wars, I grew up watching a lot of Star Trek, and there's certain logical processes.
Yeah.
There you go. Representing.
Ash just pulled out
my tiny Jean-Luc.
The little
Picard
the little bitty Lego figure Picard. So, but yeah, I thought it was awesome. I would have never thought about what you just thought about. I just went in as this is a cool series of movies, and I thought it was cool.
I have yet to see it.
I haven't seen it either, but I think a lot of movies are that way now too. It's like a little bit more simplified because I think they think that audiences that see movies like that don't have a very good attention span.
Well, that's what before you got in, I was telling Robert, to me, the original Star Trek and a little bit of the Next Generation, think of a big, giant blank canvas. Mm-hmm. And in the corner is a little postage stamp thing of what we've already seen so far.
Right.
And the blank area is so much more imagination and things that you can start filling in. But here with the new stuff, they've gone the surface route of action over substance.
And
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot.
The original stuff talked about social issues, and that's how it got created. It was Gene Roddenberry had some things he wanted to say, but with the standards of TV at the time, he couldn't do a reality-based show. So he put it in space, and was able to talk about social issues. And that's one of the things that pulled me in. As much as I'm like one of my favorite characters is the Enterprise itself. I like the ships. Star Wars, I like some of the ships. Mm-hmm. But with Star Trek, even at a young age, I really got into the stories and what they were telling or trying to, convey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've yet to see Star Wars because I was pissed off in the last one.
Are you talking about?
Mad at
you talking about Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off because
he won't even say the name.
I'm gonna do it like I said I was gonna do Batman and Joker. I'm just gonna wait until like you get home, have it queued up and just push play, and you're gonna be like, "Well, what are you watching?"
Because I haven't seen the Joker.
Wander in.
I haven't seen the Joker either.
I
just watched it recently.
I haven't seen it either.
I'm not
I know that he won. He won the Oscar
for that.
For Joaquin Phoenix did.
He does a great job. I loved him as Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I did too.
They did a really good job.
Him and Reese Witherspoon too. I think they did awesome.
My only hesitancy going into the Joker was I've kind of lived that to a degree. My first wife turned out to be bipolar, and there was a lot of bad days. And then by the time I got out of the marriage, I had to question my own reality a lot of times, and it took me a while. And I was raising a kid at the same time, so I didn't have time to focus on me.
Yeah.
Only on just the rare weekends when he was gone, I could focus. And it took a long time to kind of get back and not second guess every decision that I made on, okay, is that a rational decision or not?
Yeah.
But getting into this, you're dealing with mental health. And it was, sometimes those movies are really hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
Because when you live through it.
Yeah.
I know, I know that, I spent a lot of time with a nonprofit organization, dealing with a lot of veterans that have a lot of mental issues coming back and trying to adapt to civilian life. And when I watch military movies, like I used to be able to watch military movies and it not bother me, and now I don't even watch. If it's a military movie, I don't even watch it anymore. And I know there's some good ones out there, but I don't know. I get what you're saying when you live through something, and then you don't want to replay it on a movie screen.
Well, I follow what you're saying. I saw Full Metal Jacket right after I got out of boot camp.
Yeah.
And a lot of that movie is boot camp.
Yeah, that's the whole beginning of it is boot camp. Yeah. So
going through that, it was
It's It's like I lived it. I don't need to watch it. So I get it. And
well, that's how I was with Top Gun, because we would go out to sea, and they would show like a couple of movies.
Yeah.
I have not ever seen Top Gun from beginning to end in sequence, but I have seen all of it out of sequence.
Yeah.
I'm like that with the first of the new Godzilla movies. Because my nephew loves Godzilla, but he just wants to watch his favorite part. It's like, we need to watch this roar. Or here's where he fights and does this
Oh,
thing.
man.
It's like, Tyler, can we just watch? Nope. Skip. Rewind. Fast forward.
Kylan is my son. Kylan is the same way. He loves Godzilla and King of the Monsters. I guess that's the latest one. Yeah, that's the latest one that came out. King of the Monsters. He'll do that. He'll sit there and he'll be like, I'm like, let's just watch the movie. Nope.
They need to hang out, man.
And
that's all Tyler wants to talk about.
Every line of that movie, every character, he knows every line of every character in that movie. I mean, he could sit there and just, I'm like, man, but he loves Godzilla.
That was a good movie for Godzilla fans. For other people, maybe not, and I think that's why it didn't do that well, because people didn't get it. If you didn't know anything about like the older movies, you don't get it. But it's like, oh, they're playing the original theme, and here's this guy, and there's this one, and it doesn't matter how long. It's just counts that it's there.
Yeah.
You know?
Godzilla.
It's far out there, but that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah. You know, it's supposed to be far-fetched, out there.
The biggest complaint was, they didn't develop the human interaction. It's like, who gives a shit?
Who cares?
Nobody goes to see a Godzilla movie to see human interaction.
What do you want to see, them rubbing noses or something? Come on.
Okay, we get it. It's like, run, Godzilla.
Yeah.
They want him to win awards, Ash.
Okay, well, they can win awards for special effects and soundtrack.
I liked it. It was cool.
They got to win Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, it was about
It
this
can
time.
go to Mothra.
It was about this time last year that they were showing the trailers for the new one.
Yeah.
Which came out, like, end of May?
Yeah.
Or something like
Yeah.
that. Anyways, there's a little clip where it started running, Godzilla started running. And I was texting my son, and he goes, I don't know about that. So I sent him this GIF where in the old 1960s Godzilla, there's one on his tail, and he's just sliding. And I'm like, it could be
he would fly backwards. That's what it would. It's like he'd like ball up and like tuck his little tail out and then shoot himself backwards with his atomic breath.
Yeah.
And like his tail was dragging, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was doing a drop kick.
That's driving a drop kick.
From half a mile away.
And there's a little dance he does too that Tyler would always have to do where he like does the crisscross and whatever.
But back in the mid 2000s, we were able to rent some of the latest Godzilla movies at that time.
Yeah,
which were done maybe just a few years earlier. But those I thought were done pretty well.
There is not one Godzilla movie out there that I've seen that I didn't like.
Right.
I've always thought they were done pretty well.
Except for 1998, but that wasn't Godzilla. That was just Zilla.
We don't.
He fought him.
We don't talk about that one.
Well,
we don't talk about that one.
The deal is that real Godzilla and that fake imposter met up in Final Wars, and he got taken care of.
Well, and they also made a reference to it previous to that.
Yeah.
The Americans had something to do.
Yeah.
And then they started laughing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just Zilla. There's no God in it. They
It's
took the
just
God
Zilla.
out of it. It's just Zilla. Even on the copy of the DVD that we had for Tyler, he scratched out the God part.
Sacrilegious.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was lucky at Christmas time. I got the like 11 or 13 movie set.
Yeah.
Oh, the Godzilla set?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
I remember whenever I was a kid, I think I was in second or third grade, and Channel 8 would play the Godzilla movie like after school special movie, and it was like at around 3:30 or something like that. And when the bell would ring, I would just jet right outside I would haul ass home and try to get home in time just to watch it, and I would make it inside the house and throw my books down and turn on the TV. And of course, my mom would, make me go do something real quick, and I'd go, "Oh, what's Godzilla?" So
he really likes King Kong too. He's a big King Kong and Kong Skull Island. We went to Disney World not last year. Not Disney World. Universal, and man, that is one of the coolest rides you will ever ride. If you go there, Skull Island.
The next one is the Versus.
King Kong, to get back to it, I guess early on I had an influence where there was two main things I liked as a young kid. Robots, like from Westworld and $6 Million Man, and then Planet of the Apes, King Kong, Mighty Joe Young, anything like that. And so that probably just led.
Yeah, it leads into Bigfoot. So
and Hollow Earth. There we go too.
Yeah, he loved Kong Skull Island. So when we got to Universal, and there it was in its glory, it was like, oh, I think he even cried, honestly. You remember, speaking of him crying, you remember when we watched WrestleMania at USBC?
Yeah.
And Undertaker came out?
Yeah.
I swear he cried for like... he didn't even get to watch the match because he was just sitting there crying because his favorite...
So excited.
He's up to that point, he had only seen Undertaker wrestle in like reruns. He'd never actually seen him wrestle because Undertaker didn't wrestle anymore. You know, he'd come out every once in a while, but it wasn't a true match. So up to that point, he had never seen Undertaker wrestle. And I had told him...
Is this live or TV?
We were on WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was live.
It was
live.
No, we were watching it on TV. We weren't live. Oh, he would have passed. He would have fainted if it was live.
I was thinking it's like...
But yeah, he wouldn't have made it. But so I told him, I was like... And I knew Undertaker was going to be there. I knew he was going to be there. But I told Kylan that he probably wasn't going to be there. That he wasn't going to be there. Because I wanted to see his reaction. And man, as soon as the boom, he was just in his chair. He had his knees to his chest, and he was just, I mean, in tears, man. I was like, oh, it was so awesome.
Poor kid.
He was so excited. I was like, bud, watch it.
Undertaker does the children.
That's
It
kind of
just
how
makes
my
them
son.
hysterical.
It's kind of how my son was when I took him to his first gun show.
Oh yeah.
So at 3 years old, he developed this major obsession with guns.
I like it. I like him already.
I mean, I grew up out in the country.
Yeah.
And a gun was no different than a shovel or a
Yeah, you
lawnmower.
just had it.
It
Yeah.
was just there. But for him, and he could take, you know, as he got a little bit older, 4 or 5, he could take anything and convert it to a gun. He got this big old spaceship one time. He looked at it, I timed it at 36 seconds, and he was able to flip it around and had it under his arm and knew where the trigger and the barrel was. Yeah. So he got up to be around 8 or 9, and I was talking to a guy at work about it, and he goes, well, why don't we just take him out to the range? I've taught some kids before, and we'll let him shoot some stuff. I'm like, okay. So you confront it instead of making it taboo.
Yeah.
Because when we were first, I was going through my divorce, and I was living with my brother-in-law at the time while I was affording to do the divorce. He would go to his mother's for the weekend, come back with a gun, toy gun. She would buy him a gun.
Yeah.
And I just started putting him up on top of the refrigerator and distracting him, and then he would forget about it.
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, I was over there visiting, and somebody had pulled something off the top of the fridge, and all these plastic guns. I'm like, crap, I forgot about that.
Cash.
But
Cash your guns.
during
Just
that,
in case.
During that time, it was, take it head on and let him do it. And,
Yeah.
and it subsided the obsession. And so I learned that with kids, you can't tell them anything in advance.
Yep.
Because you'd say, hey, we're
Because
going
it's a
to...
promise.
Yeah.
Well, you would say, I'm going to take you someplace. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Yep.
No.
And then so I would just show up someplace. And so that's what I did when I took him to the first gun show. And we're pulling up, and people are walking up with guns around their shoulders.
Yeah.
And, because they would come up to sell their stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, Dad, why are people walking around with guns? I'm like, I can't tell you. But we get in there, and he's like, oh, wow. He was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So we would do that occasionally. But so now it's, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was finally nice to get kind of to that point where it was just a normal thing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
But
cool.
It was funny. I had picked up a handgun, and that would shoot 38s and 357. So we took it out to the gun range to shoot it, and so he shot the 38s. And he saw me fire off one of the 357s. No, I'm good.
He's like, yeah, that's okay.
I'm all right. And I think I shot that 7-round cylinder.
Yeah.
And I haven't shot a 357 since.
Yeah. It's
God damn it, Robert.
sorry. It's
Way to fire that one off.
yeah.
Pow, pow, pow.
Yeah, it's
That's my childhood.
357 it'll definitely kick you.
How many seconds we at?
We're at 1 minute,
1 minute 29 seconds. So
1 minute 29 seconds.
Get into that. I wanted to get back. Before we run out of time, I wanted to get your perspective on Hallsville. You remember Hallsville?
From that night?
Yeah.
Oh, my first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting because, and I'm so glad that you had called because you're like, hey, road trip. Luke's talking, let's go. Fine. And then I called up. I had all the cast that I have now. I gave to a guy out in Kilgore, Longview area, because I had moved into a really small apartment after my divorce, and I just didn't have the room for it. And I was like, here, dude. So I called him up and said, hey, we're going to be in the neighborhood. Can you bring the cast and pile them up on the table? And so did the thing. It was kind of interesting to mix that paranormal aspect because we hadn't done that before.
Yeah.
And so it was even more interesting when we get out to the cemetery and paranormal stuff wasn't happening. And then Luke's going, you hear that? And we could hear, things being thrown at us.
Yeah.
And he's going, we're experiencing stuff. Wow, yeah, you're right.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And while the paranormal group was frustrated because nothing was coming up on any of the instruments.
Yeah. Which is really interesting because when we went back to Hallsville, when the three of us went back to Hallsville, the opposite. I mean, it was just that meter was out of control, and it was hitting 20, sometimes 3 to 5 seconds just sat there on 20.
Wow.
It was, just big time. And we got some pretty good audio out of it.
Yeah.
But the only, I would say, Bigfoot anything was towards the end. Is we got a couple of howls.
I think it was
back.
owl.
It was far away, so it's
it was real far away.
It's kind of hard to.
But it was
conjecture
because Robert howled, and I think you did. You did too, right?
Bard owl. You did a bard owl.
Yeah, Bard
I
owl.
did something. I don't know what it was.
And then we got six howls back. So it was pretty cool. But I wouldn't. Again, I'm not going to say it's Bigfoot.
Inconclusive. It sounded like a bird to me.
Yeah. So on a similar note, on the private property that we were researching, I was up there by myself, staying at the cabin. And over several days, I had accumulated, some information. It drove up the road because the cell phone coverage in the spot was really bad, so I'd have to drive about a mile up the road. Called up Buddy to give him the report over the last several days of the things that were going on. And I want to say this was like middle of October, and the first really cool snap was kicking in. Because I remember when I pulled back up to the cabin, it was just that really cool and crispy night. It was clear. And I had a little bit of a view, I guess, because I could look down and kind of see the top of the trees a little bit. No, not up real high, but anyways, I did a vocal. I want to say it was an owl sound, and try to end it with that. And one picked up to my left, one picked up to the right, and then another one picked up that was louder than both of them. And you could tell the tone was, shut the hell up. That's not one of us.
Wow.
And then everything got quiet.
It's interesting. I've always found it interesting that, and Robert said it too, when these things come up, everything else shuts up. Everything else is just like, okay.
So my Boggy Creek kind of story is when the group, I just started the group, and they were already planning on doing a conference. So we went out to Caddo Lake State Park, as a group get together, just camp. We weren't even doing any squatching. We were just going to get together, have a good time, check out the area that we were going to do this, and just kind of, get things visualized. And so we were spread out over about 2-3 campsites. And me and my wife had set up a tent outside of this cabin, well, a little screened in thing. And Rand and Kat were in there. And we'd stayed up really late. Well, I had stayed up late with the guys and my wife, and son had already gone in and crashed. And no sooner had I laid back down when we finally broke up and went to bed. No sooner had I laid down, I heard some owls. Didn't really think about it, and then Rand's outside my tent going, "Damn, did you hear that?" I'm like, "What, those owls?" He goes, "That's not owls." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And this was still new, hadn't experienced a lot of this stuff. And so I get out and we stand there, and then we can kind of hear things. And there was these bellows that just made me feel like I was listening to Legend of Boggy Creek. And it had just had these sounds, and you could hear it moving off. And so I ran around and woke everybody up, and we kind of came down to where my area was, and we were listening. And I didn't realize how interesting it was until after they had moved, whatever it was, moved off. Everything like a light switch turned back on. Because I didn't realize everything was dead quiet.
Yeah, everything got quiet.
No crickets. No
frogs.
No frogs. Nothing. It was just dead quiet, and then like a light switch,
It came back on.
all just turned back on.
That's so interesting to me because
Excuse me.
they know the big dog is there, and they're like, "Oh, he's here. I'm gonna be quiet." So that's so cool. And like you said, it just came back on. Like go back.
I wanted to ask you if you wanted to talk a little bit more about Hallsville, because I know when we were out there, it was me, it was Ash's group. I had Steven out there. It was you, me, Lucas, Billy. I think that was it from us. I think because Nick's went home, right?
Right.
And Partain went home. Todd Partain went home.
Because he has kids with him.
Yeah. So, because I know we had done a couple tree knocks and stuff. I just wanted to, if you recall that.
Other than, kind of being aware that we were getting some things thrown at us, I don't remember any other details.
Okay.
Per se. I just remember, kind of hearing a few things. The vocals, if there were any, they were minimal.
Yeah.
There was just the one at the very beginning after did the knocks. Because I think what it is, we got real quiet and we were doing EVPs.
Right.
And we could hear him moving around, just like that kind of shuffle slide sound.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, nothing's really going on here. Let's just whatever, because there have been sightings in the area, just see what happens. And almost immediately after they did those knocks, there was a call, and then that's when we started getting pelted with everything.
Because I do recall Billy saying, "Goes, we're getting hit across the street," because you could hear the rocks hitting like all the branches and trees and leaves and stuff, just and boom, and
I think that's when Luke walked over and was like, "Hey, we're getting some activity."
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Just like nonchalant, like, "Hey, we're good."
But you know what? I felt pretty safe there. I felt safe. I didn't feel threatened. I mean, and we had activity. It was exciting. Yeah. I know Steven was really young, and he was pretty scared. So.
Oh, on that note, I would like to go ahead and, while I'm thinking about it, take a shout out to Steven and just say, hey, congrats on getting married, having the kids. I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah. Because you've known Steven since he was like little, right?
Well, since 12, since that weekend.
Yeah. No, he's since had 2 clones. Made him butted off of him.
He's not doing it once, but 2 at a time.
One and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good fortune to you, Stephen, and I'm happy for you.
Yeah, he thinks the world of you, man. He thinks the world of you. So.
But yeah, it was kind of fun. And fortunately, I didn't go down that path. I don't think of trying to be the bad guy and scare him or anything.
No, you didn't. You were good to him, because I think when I used to bring, I used to bring him to the meetings, to the TVRC meetings, and what's his name, Craig, used to try to boss him around. I said, Don't
talk to my kid.
Don't boss him around, because he would say, "Hey, Steve, pick this up." I said, "Don't do what he says. Do what you want."
I bet he loved that.
But I will say this, because I think I took him to the very first Bigfoot conference, TBRC conference. He met Smokey. Smokey gave him a shot glass. He's like 7, 7 or 8. So. You
didn't let him have his milks out of it.
No, I thought he was like 12 at the time.
No, he was. I think he was 12. Let me see. Yeah, he could have been like around 10 or something. I'm really bad about ages and stuff. So
How old am I, Robert?
yeah, he's probably like 10. but
You see how he skipped over that?
Yeah.
but still, Smokey gave him a shot glass. Because here, buddy, here you go.
Oh.
And Steven looks at it and goes, "What is this?"
It's a baby glass.
You
it's for
shoot
little
your chocolate milk out of
It's
it.
for little people.
For your milk.
Say a very small juice glass.
It's for your Martin
It's
Luther King.
it's for communion. When you're taking communion, man, you're doing the Lord's Supper.
She just said Martin Luther King because like the boys they want to drink milk all the time, and I can't say milk in front of them, so I say Martin Luther King, MLK. So I asked Steven, I go, do we have any Martin Luther King? He goes, yeah, it's in the refrigerator. Because if I say milk, they're gonna say what? Their ears perk up and say we want milk. So I have to say that. So,
Gummy bear.
so she was saying the shot glass was for MLK.
Well, my slang for chocolate milk was black cow juice.
Black cow juice.
So you could just say, "You got any cow juice?"
Yeah. You got any cow juice?
That's true.
Freshly squeezed.
Oh man. So we're 1 minute and 40 seconds in.
1 minute 40 seconds.
Man, that went by really quick.
It did.
It doesn't. I mean, no,
It doesn't seem like we've been here for 1 minute and 40 seconds.
having fun. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, what other shows are you watching?
Right now,
Sorry. Throw you on the loop on that one.
well, I've tried to get into Ozark.
Yeah.
My wife's into that one. I just can't get into it.
Yeah.
So finished. We did. Oh shucks! What was that one movie that came out about 10 years or so ago, and they just did a series on it? The blue guy, the
Watchmen.
The Watchmen.
Oh,
thank
Watchmen.
you.
Yeah, that was a one and done series, and I'm upset about that.
Yeah.
They had planned on it to be one shot, but then it was like, well, we might do a second season because it's popular. Then they're like, no.
Well, the way it ended, I just assumed.
I did too, but no, they meant
So-
for it to be a single season.
So you watched that and
You need to watch it, Robert.
yeah, I gotta watch it. I gotta
It's
watch
so
that.
good.
I have a whole list of shows I gotta watch.
Robert, stop hitting the door.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else did we just finish?
Mm-hmm.
The Outsider on HBO right now.
Is that any good?
It's interesting.
Because it's got a bunch of actors that I like.
Well, it's got Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
Mendelsohn, who was from Rogue One.
Right.
And a few other folks. But yeah, it's interesting.
Am I in charge?
And that's a Stephen King thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his son actually just did a series that was on Netflix. And that was kind of interesting. He's not his dad,
Okay.
but it was interesting. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Oh, Lock and Key.
That's actually a comic.
Yeah. I've heard good things.
That's actually a comic. So
Not surprising.
yeah. So what else? What else are you watching?
That's about it.
Really?
What are you watching, Robert? Stars game and wrestling at the same time, and that's it.
That's usually the idea I watch. I watch wrestling and the Stars at the same time.
The Stars got their butts.
Handled
Kicked.
yesterday.
So I've gone through phases in my life where I've watched wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've gone through my last phase. But, when I was a kid, I'd watch it with my dad, and he even would take me to the arena there in Shreveport, where I grew up in East Texas. It was Shreveport TV, not Dallas.
Yeah.
So I saw some wrestlers go through there before they made it to Dallas in the mid 80s.
That's cool.
Like I was telling them, I saw when Ted DiBiase was just Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
And he was a good guy. Junkyard Dog.
My favorite.
He would show up with a collar and a chain.
Yeah.
Just wild as shit.
Oh, man. I love Junkyard Dog.
I got to see, Andre live.
Man. Wow.
And, when
We all made the same noise.
I know.
when he would get to the ring, he would just push that top ring down.
Yeah, and
top rope down and step right over it.
Yeah.
Which was very similar to the Squatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did the squats go, okay, boss?
Does anybody have a peanut?
But Ernie Ladd, You know, Kabuki.
Yeah.
I was terrified of him.
He was creepy.
Yeah.
That's what that truck was that I was trying to tell you. You said something that had the jagged branch sticking out in the back.
Oh yeah.
When I was on the way to work the other day, I was like, it said something weird, and I didn't understand. And it was Kabuki. It was like this
Was it?
old broken down truck that had it like airbrushed on the back, and then it had like
Kabuki.
Final Destination sticks in the back.
He used to scare the crap out
Yeah,
of me. 'Cause
Kabuki scared me too.
He would come on and like I would go behind the couch with my older brother and I would hide and he would tell me, okay, he's done, and I would get back up. But I'd go because I have the WWE network and I go back because they purchase all the World Class Championship Wrestling stuff. I'll go back and look at he looks like a damn mechanic. With sweats on. You know,
Maybe you had a bad experience with a mechanic as a child.
I guess.
People in jumpsuits.
Hey, he freaked me out too, man.
Because he had like the green and white, and then he had his long hair, and it looked like he was just wearing sweats and socks.
Well, when he would do his long hair down, he was like the well girl from the Ring.
Yeah, the Ring. Yeah.
And Samara before Samara was Samara.
Yeah.
But the one that kind of freaked me out a lot was King Kong Bundy.
King Kong Bundy.
Oh yeah.
He was just kind of gross looking.
He was just he just looked like a serial killer Bob type of guy, you know.
He looked like a white milk dud.
A white milk dud.
And then when I was in the Navy, and I was stationed in Norfolk, ran into some guys that were really into it. And fortunately, where my ship was going through a refit and it was in dry dock, and right across the edge of the bay there was just a short ride over to their Coliseum where we could go and watch wrestling live, and then you'd see the Freebirds coming through.
Man.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So we had some fun.
Yeah.
I used to watch it with my uncle was in Vietnam, and he got paralyzed from the neck down, and he laid in a bed for 22 years, paralyzed from the neck down. So when I was a kid, he's the reason why I went into the military, wanted to honor my uncle. And but I used to sit there, and he used to have 3 TVs, and they would be on different things, but we would focus mainly on the wrestling. And it was just, I mean, the Von Erichs to me were like the best thing that ever walked the planet, because that was my uncle's favorite. He loved the Von Erichs. So whenever I had my son, man, he was probably, he's maybe 7 or 8. We went to Slammiversary, TNA Impact Slammiversary. And the Von Erichs came out, the ones that are alive, and that'd
be Kevin.
Kevin, yeah, and he had his nephews with him.
Yeah, his daughters
he had 2 nephews with him. So Kevin came out with his 2 nephews, and I bawled like a little baby. I did. I cried because I was like, it took me back to those memories with my uncle, you know, sitting on his bed next to him, and I was crying like a baby. He has a picture of Fritz like this, you know, doing the claw, and it says to Charles, you know, love Fritz, and I still have it, so it's cool. You get chills, but it was awesome. I just those good times with my uncle, sitting there, and then when the Von Erichs came out to be there with my son, you know, and experience, he didn't know the Von Erichs, but just it was a cool experience.
Did you get to see the Von Erichs at all?
A little bit, because at some point they finally started showing it in East Texas, and so that's when I first saw the Von Erichs, and then I'm like, crap, that dude's built.
Yeah,
they're all built.
Yeah,
'cause before that was just, you know, fairly chunky dudes. You know, nobody was
shredded. Yeah.
Car mechanics.
But then I was really freaking out because I was starting to see some of the same players come back through, but with whole new personalities.
Yeah.
You know, like the $1 Million Man.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't look like that just a few years ago.
And he was a good guy. And now he's a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Robert knows how I feel about the WWE.
I mean, I watch all the wrestling. I watch it all. I try to watch it all. I watch WWE. I watch Impact. I watch AEW is a brand new one that just came out. Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes' son. He's got his own brand out right now, and I watch. I try to watch some NWA and some Japanese stuff, and I watch some of the Mexican stuff whenever I get a chance to. So I watch way too much.
I just don't have time. I got 4 kids, and so I don't have time.
Well, that was kind of where my Bigfooting went to.
Yeah.
Was going through a divorce, raising a kid. You know, there's my
Yeah.
finances and time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the luxury to just hand them off, you know, at a whim.
Yeah.
So it kind of phased me out of it.
Yeah.
But I've kept the interest up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you interested in going, like going back out?
Yeah, occasionally I wouldn't mind. You know, because it's always awesome to just be out in the woods.
Would you be interested in going out to Hallsville again?
Possibly.
Okay.
Let's do it. Because it's just down the road, too. It's Lake of the Pines in Jefferson.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, this was about 3 years ago, I took what is my wife now and her daughter out to what used to be our Area 2, which was a park. And we had gone out at one point just to scout the area out. I wanted to go primitive. I didn't want to get one of the spots that had the running water, electricity, and a slab picnic table. I wanted to go out and just kind of more of a primitive area that would have a table, but that was about it. So they have a little area out there where you could do that. So we went and scouted it out, kind of figured out where we wanted to go. Came back 2 weeks later, and I went into the office to pay for the lot, the spot. And so I had to randomly just pick a spot on the map because we were the first ones out there, maybe second ones.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll take spot X right there. And just by chance. And so we go out, and it's about maybe 80 to 100 yards from the car to that spot. So we had to lug everything that far. So I'd immediately grab the heaviest thing first, which is the ice chest. And I have wheels on it, but, still wheeled it out there and everything I could stack on top of it. Get to the picnic table, stop, look down, and there's a print.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I'm in the right spot.
Wow.
And it was a few days old, a week old.
Yeah.
The ground was hardened up. It had done it when it was soft, so it had rained, maybe a week earlier. And it was there by itself, but then as I looked around, there was other sign.
Yeah.
Because there were other limbs that were in bushes that were just aligned in a straight line. And then I started kind of going it was almost like a little peninsula where the campground was. So I walked from one edge to the other, and you could just see the indication that something had placed branches in a certain line. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool. Just by chance, man.
By chance.
I want that one, and boom.
But I've always been relatively lucky at finding prints.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those weird intuition things. But here it was just random.
Yeah.
Just by chance.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
When I turn my phone back on, I should have a picture of it, and I'll show it to you.
I was going to ask you, is it okay to post those footprints on the Facebook page?
Sure.
Okay.
Did you already get some pictures of them?
Yeah, I got some pictures of them. I just wanted your permission before I do it.
Well, let's make sure we flip that one around where you can get a picture of the nails.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to say, tonight when I came in and they were sitting there, I had to say and I said this off mic, but I'll say it on mic. That's the first time in real life that I've ever seen an actual casted print of a Bigfoot, and it's pretty stinking cool.
Yeah.
And the one that you flipped over, you didn't even have to tell me, but you could see the nails. You could see the nail prints in the one that you're just talking about taking a picture of.
Yeah, that was a happy bonus because when I found the impression, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Wasn't until after I pulled it out of the ground, cleaned it up. I was like, oh, look at that.
It's definitely there. It's definitely a nail. So I just thought it was really cool that that's the first time I've ever seen an actual print. And
when you see them, you see it all the time on TV and whatever. It doesn't really give you the perspective of just like the size of it.
Exactly. Because what did I say? I said,
that's a big foot.
That's a big foot. Yeah. That's exactly what I said, because you can see it on TV, just like Ash just said. You can see it on TV. I can see a million pictures, but until it's sitting right there and you're looking at it, that's a big foot. So
There was one day, and this was interesting. I was listening to something within the last few days, and they were talking about finding prints. And they would say, you just see the one. It would just be an isolated one by itself, kind of like at the park. That was the only one.
Yeah.
If there was another one nearby, it may have gone through there running, so the stride would have been pretty distant.
Yeah.
And it could have been just on different type of terrain and just hit a sweet spot. But there was one time I went up to the private area, and me and the guy that lived there, somebody had called him and said, hey, you might want to come out and look at this. We went to about 4 or 5 different spots, 3 or 4 different spots, and found prints in every spot. And there was like 4 or 5, no more, no less.
Wow.
And they varied in shape a little bit. A lot of them were pretty similar. Whether they were on his property or his friend's property, or I found them up at this other area where I've casted these two at. It was just weird that you'd only find a small group of them. And I've heard other reports where you just see a trail, that's really long.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that.
I say that you only see one of them because they're hopping around on one foot.
Right. Well,
or stilts.
Actually, I think one of my first memories of Bigfoot is from Scooby-Doo. And there was this little 3-foot creature that had these giant feet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. This is a little bitty short thing with big giant feet. That's awesome.
We're 1 minute and 56 seconds in, so
56 seconds.
1 minute and 56 seconds. But going back to the prints, it's really cool to actually get to see one in person and actually sit here with the person that casted it. That's really cool to me, because that's the first time I've ever seen it. First time I've ever seen a print, period, of anything Bigfoot. So it's really cool.
So there's some areas that, used to, I felt confident enough that I felt if I could look at a map, I could take you to where they would be.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I've been out of it so long, I would have to get back into it for a while.
Yeah.
But
it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope so.
It comes back.
But there's areas out there where you can still go. You just got to get out there and walk around enough.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, would you be interested in coming back and doing the show again?
Well, sure.
Okay.
Now, I think it might totally be counterproductive, but I think you ought to get Ken on, and then maybe have us both at the same time.
Ken the Marvelous Marvel?
All right.
That's how we should do our season finale, just have all our guests back on.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I'm told, because we have to get Kenny on, because he's a hoot.
But yeah, think of him. Visually, he kind of reminds me of Jay Leno in a ways. But he's a cantankerous old Chicagoan.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's something else, I swear.
So you don't? Is he from Chicago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why don't you call him CM Marvel?
No, he's the Marvelous Marvel. That's why.
Because he's the Marvelous Marvel.
He's not straight edge.
No, he's clearly not straight edge.
Well, there you go. He could fight the Green Ranger, I bet, and win.
Yeah. So before we sign off, we have to have a moment of silence because a part of our team was retired tonight.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna give it. I said we should give it a Viking funeral in the parking lot, but we'll probably get in trouble.
Let's take a picture and post it on.
Yeah, we'll take a picture and post
it on Facebook page and the Twitter page.
So what we're not talking about a human, so nobody died.
We're just gonna burn them in the parking lot.
We're gonna burn them in the parking lot. My original chair that I started the show with is being retired, so it's sitting over there by itself in a living room.
That can be the Mandy chair now.
And so just have a moment of silence. Okay, done.
Okay, it's done.
Okay, done. The end. Goodbye.
So goodbye, chair. You were great, but this one's greater.
Tim, I wanted to thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, because are you going to listen to this on Monday morning?
Hell no. I actually, that is one of my things that I've really gotten used to is looking forward to Mondays.
Yeah.
Going in and hearing the show. There's no way in hell I'm going to listen to myself.
Are you serious?
Serious.
I don't like to listen to it either. He likes to play it in the car. I'm like, I don't want to listen to myself, especially like first thing in the morning or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say it's great to meet you.
Back at you.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was telling Robert, he told me about it back in September. I was like, oh, okay. I found the page. I started listening to it, stopped, and then forgot about it for about 2 months until he reminded me. I'm like, oh, I guess I could listen to that. So over a 2-day period, I caught up on like 6 or 8 episodes,
Wow.
whatever there was. And at the end of it, I'm like, man, I know this guy's pretty well now.
That's cool because that's kind of how we want it. You know, we want to be personable enough to know that, you know, if you listen to us, you kind of know who we are. You get our attitudes, our personalities, and stuff like that. So,
people, apparently.
But I realized, I think me and you, Ash, have a lot of similar interests, maybe with like movies, the horror stuff.
Yeah.
Because you've said a few things, I'm like, okay, I can relate to that. And then I liked, Chris, I liked your skepticism.
yeah.
And then, of course, you know, the fangirl over here.
Yeah. Who can't like
Oh my
the
God, you know who
fangirl?
I talked to today?
You can't sit with us.
You can't stay with us.
Oh my God.
But
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
But I was really happy when I reached out to you and you agreed to come on. So I was like, you know, there's like I said this before, there's very few people I like to go in the woods with, and you're one of them. So,
Well, you know, like I said, I've kind of gotten away from that whole aspect for so long. Mm-hmm. You know, now it's just the last few years it's been consumed with different realities.
yeah.
So it's kind of neat and nice to kind of step away from the reality a little bit and deal with this because,
Yeah.
you know, it's a fun subject, whether it's real or not. It's fun to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something. There's something. It's real. We just don't know what.
Right.
The intrigue of it. Like I said, that's what pulls me in is the thought that it could be. And
But, I mean, everything that we've talked about tonight is still just scraping the surface.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, being out at that private area, you know, there was a graduation of education, and we weren't educating anything. We were the ones being educated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
That's what I hope for my part of it all, is to just learn everything I can about everything, whatever the truth may be. You know.
Tim, you got any shout outs to anybody?
Well, I did the one for Steve, and I was thinking about that. And I just, you know, after listening to him last week,
Yeah.
and again, I'm happy for you. That's about it.
Ash, you got anybody?
No.
Chris?
You know me, my wife and babies. I love y'all. Couldn't do what I do without you. So
Okay.
all my babies and my baby mama. I love y'all.
Well, I guess I'll throw in after that. Should my wife happen to listen to this, hey, babe.
Did she listen at all, or
No.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you-
awesome.
you like told her about it and stuff?
Well, I just said you have a podcast, and I'm going to go over and talk Bigfoot.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, yeah.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.
My sister listens sometime, but
Yeah.
Sometime.
not here lately because she's been at school. She's been hustling to get her nursing degree.
Hey, that's important.
It is important that she graduates in May.
Awesome.
And
But again,
no
I-
holds barred.
I wanted to thank everybody for downloading and listening to the podcast. Really appreciate it. Hit us up on Twitter at Bigfoot1, and we're also on Facebook as Bigfoot1 as well. So hit us up. Any ideas? Any critiques?
Is it just Bigfoot?
No,
one?
Facebook is Bigfoot Club.
Club 1. But both are Bigfoot Club 1.
Yeah, they're both.
Bigfoot.club.
Yeah.
One,
dot-
right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really need a script, Robert.
I know. I wing it most.
We
of the
need
time,
to just
so.
record a commercial at the end
Yeah.
for all this stuff.
Yeah,
we need a
Push button.
jingle.
No.
a jingle, maybe like a voiceover. You know.
Yeah.
Welcome, that stuff. So anyway, thanks everybody, and we're gonna call this show.
Good night, sweet dreams.
Later.
Wow.